So you're probably wondering, Amplify, that's a really powerful word, but it's also an organization. So Amplify hosts free events that bring amazing people together to amplify and grow as individuals through our collective stories and experiences. We've been hosting events since July of 2021, and since that time, we've had 9 featured founders, 3 of which are on the stage with us today. Thank you. We typically meet on Air Meet, and the format of our sessions is, it's pretty cool. I don't see a lot of other events happening this way, but we bring on our featured founders. They get to talk about themselves, their stories, and their experiences, and then we go back into small groups 3 different times and talk about how we can either show up and amplify or fund or become customers. So today our format's a little bit different. We're here in person, and then there's those of you who are on Hopin as well. And we're looking for the same thing. We're hoping that you can listen and engage. You can become potential funders of these startups. You can become customers, or you can share with your network these amazing stories that we're going to hear today. So who am I? I'm Liz Tupper. I'm part of the Amplify team, and I'm one of your moderators today. And I'm here with Dario Otero, one of our co-founders at Amplify, thank you, who will introduce himself and our founders today.
So my name is Dario Otero. I have the lovely job of being the guest at Amplify. So over the last year, I've been able to interview founders and startup founders, people that are talking about the challenges they've gone through, but also the successes they've had, and it's just been wonderful. I myself am a startup founder, so being able to dive into the stories of others and be able to understand and connect all the dots of the things that they are going through has just been wonderful for me. And so I'll introduce some of the people that we have on stage here. I'll start here to my left with Khalique Rogers from Good Riddance, Bella Lamb from Coconut Whisk, and Okonkwo from Sit Eat. And I'll let them tell you a little bit more about their businesses as we go along, but just wanted to give a quick introduction.
Thanks, Dario. I'd love for each of the founders to introduce themselves in their own words as well. So maybe we'll go down the line, and we'll start with you.
Thank you for having me. My name is Okonkwo, and I'm the CEO and co-founder of Sit Eat. We're a concession management platform that allows concession operators at live entertainment events to reduce the long wait times and improve fulfillment efficiency.
Hello. Hey everyone, my name is Bella Lamb. I'm the founder of Coconut Whisk. We are a mission-driven, vegan, and gluten-free food company that specializes in breakfast and baking mixes, so think pancakes, cookies, waffles, and more. We also have a bubble tea shop in downtown Minneapolis where we do bubble tea, gluten-free vegan eats, and yeah, that's a little bit about me.
Hey everybody, my name is Khalique Rogers of Good Riddance Consulting. I'm the founder and CEO, of course. And we work on social impact initiatives that help amplify community needs, and also those things that also lead to legislation change as well to make systemic changes to the issues that our community faces.
All right, I just want to have a conversation, and Bella, if you want to start, just talk a little bit about your experience at Amplify and how it felt. I mean, we were in the middle of a global pandemic at the time, and so we had to move the way that we were going to talk with you, and we had to do it virtually. But tell us a little bit about that experience and how it went.
Yeah, so I initially got connected with Amplify through Mick White, and so it was a very organic relationship. And so I wanted to kind of figure out what he was doing and realized that there was a really cool community and people behind it. And so I really did enjoy our experience. Like the whole format of, Dario, you were the moderator, and so the whole format of it was really, deep and like personal, but yet also like the questions weren't, you know, the standard. And so I really got to like open up, and yeah, it was just a really beautiful format, and got some good connections out of it. So yeah.
So the conversation was about an hour long, but what we did was we really wanted to dive into you as a founder, highlight you and where you were right now at the time that we had the conversation, but where you were going as well. And so through that conversation, we were able to dive into your story, but then allow others in the audience be able to talk about your story and how it impacts them and similarities they have in their story. And so we went through that process over an hour, and I think that's the process that you're talking about. But I would love to know, where are you now? What are you doing now since the Amplify conversation? I mean, there's some exciting things. I'd love to share them, but I would love for you to.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things I've learned, like, you know, just having conversations like what we did, was that, you know, my company, Coconut Whisk, it's, I take it very personally because it's like my first child. I started it in my college apartment, and it was a passion project. I never thought it was gonna be what it is today, or like my full-time career. And so, yeah, it's just very personal to me. But what I realized throughout this, you know, throughout this year especially, is like growing my self-worth and my own value in myself, and knowing that like Coconut Whisk is a tool, I'm like the vessel. And so this just really helped me gain more confidence when I'm in conversations with investors or different groups. It's like I'm, you know, it's, yeah, I have this company and like this is my credibility, but I also have a lot to offer as, you know, just a person, and I'm my company's there, but like it's beyond that. And so it really empowers me to know that my story matters, and just me showing up allows other people to kind of see themselves in me, someone who, you know, didn't come from someone with a lot of money, or a family with a lot of money, or you know, or a business background, something like that. So it's like just knowing that it's beyond me, it has been kind of the biggest lesson I've learned.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm going to slide over to Khalique, because you were early on. When we first started Amplify, we actually had an in-person Amplify. You were the second person that we amplified after Kelsey Josen. And we were at the, I forget the name now.
The lab.
The lab, thank you very much. And we were sitting down with you at the lab, and I remember me and you were sitting there, and the sun was beating on us from the window, and we were sweating. But you had an amazing story just about, you know, your experience and what you were trying to do. And so I believe you made a lot of connections that day with people. So tell us a little bit about that experience.
Yeah. Look, as a whole, it's always everybody likes to talk about themselves, right? But when you have the opportunity to do it and to speak on your story in front of a collective group of people who are there to uplift what you're trying to accomplish and your goals and aspirations, it really changes it, because it's an intentional space. And that's what I loved about Amplify, because the people who came to support and to listen weren't just there for that purpose. Like, the process of Amplify makes the audience and the participants who are there watching think about their community, think about their story, think about how they came up. But they also have the ability to see how they can help you rise too. Who do they know? Who's in their network that can help amplify and push what you're trying to accomplish? So I made a couple different connections. I met amazing people through that process. I ended up doing business with, ended up referring me to other individuals who had similar skill sets, and or just to find a community of people that supported not just what I did, but supported each other. So it just became a family almost, like that you can consistently find and go to a place where you know that they'll be and be supportive, and vice versa.
What was maybe your favorite part of it? What was something that you remember that, you know, happened during that time?
Let's see. I would say for me was just finding people who not just believed in what your mission, but you can find the people who've done it. You know, oftentimes, if you're starting a new venture or, you know, going on this entrepreneurial journey, you don't always have that mentor or individual who can at least help guide you in some ways and at least assist in the areas that you're, you know, may have oversights in. And, you know, for entrepreneurs, like, it's key to know how to pivot and pivot in a timely manner, you know, so you can actually continue. And that's what I found in that space. Like, I found people I can go connect with and just shoot a text. You know, there's a few people in this audience that I know that I definitely lean on, and it's just a blessing to have that and for it to be curated in an organic way.
Thank you very much. Thank you. So you talked about the network, and so we're gonna slide over here to Moo and just talk about your experience and like, was there a connection for you that mattered during your Amplify experience, and like, how did you use that to grow your network?
I think the most important connection I made was with Mick. After the Amplify session, he reached out to me and was like, hey, I really want to help you. I enjoyed your story, and connected me to a couple of people in his network, and those people have stayed in my network now, and they're helping me grow and build City.
Thank you. Yeah, talk about Mick White. So Amplify started in a unique way where, you know, it was just a phone call. Hey, come out. There's a founder. There's a person that is trying to start up a company. We're gonna have lunch. And we got to the lunch, and there was just like 8 people there sitting there at the table who had all different walks of life, ran businesses before or currently, you know, had a startup, and they were just all really excited to just help this founder. And so we got to hear from the founder, and we got to give advice. And I think what Mick said afterwards was like, hey, this was great, but we got to turn it into a process because everybody wanted to help so much, but we didn't even know what the founder needed help with. And so as the founder was talking, we said, how do we design a process where the founder's talking, but also the crowd, the people that are there, that's so much of the lifeblood of the conversation, you know, people being in the space talking to one another about somebody else like Khalique or Bella or Moo, and how they could help, and then bringing that information back in a structured way so that founder could be able to execute. I think that was the change that was really unique and Amplify and different, right? You weren't coming to hear somebody talk for an hour straight. You were getting to interact with the crowd as well and talk to each other about the story of the founder, which I think is the reason why Amplify has been so effective for over 9 conversations now and continuing. Liz?
Yeah, I'd love to, I mean, I think we all know there's been a lot of threads in the discussion today around just like entrepreneurship is hard, right? And sometimes you're stretching your skills beyond what you think is possible for yourself, or new experiences that you're like, well, we're gonna try this. So from that lens, I'd love to hear if there have been any like other lessons learned over the past year that like former Bella or former Khalique or former Moo was like, oh, that was a lesson. I wish I would have known this beforehand, but I've got it. So Moo, we'll start with you.
I think one of the biggest lessons I've learned over the year is to build processes and systems that helps me achieve my goals every day, every week, or every month. I think I've made every mistake in the book any first-time founder could make. You know, you get super passionate, you're chasing, and you're chasing this passion and this goal, and you forget to build those processes. And I think that was the biggest lesson I learned from last year when I moved away from professional basketball to becoming a first-time founder, and up till now is learning to build a process and learning to be open and telling people where you're at and not trying to fake, you know, anything, and just asking for help when you need help, and building a process with asking for that help, whether it's by asking people if they want to join your monthly newsletter or investor update or just company update, and just telling them where you're at. That's really helped me a lot.
Bella, how about you?
Oh gosh, I feel like I learn something every single day, and there's so many lessons and challenges. So it's hard to pick one, but one that stands out in the moment is realize I'm just going through this. So we've been in business for about 4 years now, 4.5 almost, and you know, in the beginning it was like all passion, like it was flame and hot fire. You know, it was like, I love baking, I love vegan mixes, I love vegan food, and that was what really drove us in the first few years. And you know, I would do things, I would work like 12 hours a day. I would we would go to farmers markets every weekend, and it's just me and my partner Miles. He's somewhere in the audience. He's my co-founder and life partner, and it was a lot, but we had passion driving us, and now it's not like that anymore. It's more of like this very sober fire, this very like embers. It's just like steady. It's just like a very it's grueling sometimes, but now we realize that we have a team. We don't have to take on everything ourselves. And again, it's about processes. So really being mindful of like our time, our energy, and putting in the processes and the system. So we currently use the EOS system. So if you haven't heard of it, it's the Entrepreneurial Organization System, and it really changed our business. And it's been helping us like framework everything and just understand our scaling model and like how we're going to take our business in the next 4 years. So just learning that passion's not going to be there every day. It's like it's really a choice now. It's like we are devoted to this, and we got to just make it work, and sometimes fake the passion, or just really get in touch with the customer and who we're serving, because sometimes it's not always so fun. So that's been my biggest lesson so far.
Funny story. So I heard about coconut whisk, and Mick told me he had a package of pancake mix for me, and I was like, vegan pancake mix? I don't know, right? So like, for like 2 months straight, like he's like, hey man, I got this pancake mix, when you gonna pick it up? And so I finally did, and I finally used it, and it's very good, because I'm trying to watch my weight a little bit, and
you look
protect
great.
my sexy, yeah. So thank you very much. So I ate that, and I was like, now I need to get more. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
And it just, sometimes you just got to step out, because I didn't know you could make something that tasted good and be vegan at the same time. So
amazing, yeah. And we just wanted to make our products really approachable, so you don't have to be vegan, you don't have to be gluten-free. It's like we want to be welcoming, just add water, so super easy. And so yeah, that's great. That's awesome. Thanks.
Okay, last but not least, right? I would say, well, I've learned a lot through this process, because it took me a while to fully do my business full time. There's a lot of people, if they're got an endeavor or a hobby or something they're passionate about, but they're not really sure if they should take that leap into full entrepreneurship. And for me, that was something that I had to grow into, because I was still growing up and finding myself in this process, figuring out if this was me, or if it was this idea I wanted to just try out. But I started recognizing that, my company is really just an extension of who I am. I wouldn't have even started on this journey unless I had a dream. And I have this mantra, I say, dreams don't work until you do. And I really started focusing on, if I can have this idea that if I wake up, it's always there. If no matter if I'm going through a tough time, I can still pull joy, from within me to keep on going and continue to fight for our, community, because I work a lot with youth. And I started this whole process when I was 16 as a youth advocate for legislation and education reform and things of that nature. And over the years, I had just met amazing mentors, along the way. I met Dario, how many years ago? 4 or 5 years ago. And he was able to see things in me that I didn't see in myself. And what I've learned that's been something I really had to pay attention to is really using, not just using, but looking into the value that the people who are around you and finding ways to really pull that out, especially if they're there in your corner. We often want to search for somebody we don't know all the time, but you'd be surprised the people that are already in your backyard have so much to give to you. And you just have to be aware enough to see it and to use it and not misuse, what they've been giving you. So it's been a journey, but I'm enjoying it.
I'm not going to let you get out of here without talking a little bit about the green space that we all get to enjoy here in St. Paul because of the work that you did. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so it started in high school. I was just an ambitious student that if I seen an issue, I got this big mouth. That's what my mom always say, man, you always got something to say. So I had a group of students, and there was 5 acres behind our high school. And we just had the idea of why not use this space for something more than snow removal? It was just a big lot not being used for anything. And so Even then, I always had a mic in my hand because they were like, hey, Khalique, you like to talk. Could you be the MC for this, MC for that? And so I used that opportunity as we were walking around the community looking at green spaces. And I was like, you know, in public art. And I said, hey, by the way, we have this 5 acres of land that's right behind the school. And we have an idea of using this space for a park. And I didn't know that the right people would be in that space to actually help. But a week later, you know, our program coordinator at my old high school, Gordon Parks in St. Paul, Paul Krieger, he's a real awesome mentor of mine as well. He was like, hey, you know, there was a guy there that ended up talking to the mayor of St. Paul, and it was Chris Copeman at the time. And he was like, yeah, he told them about the idea, and they're considering donating $2 million to acquire the land. And I'm like, what? I mean, I wasn't playing when I said the idea. I just didn't think it would go anywhere. And so from that point on, it took 7 years. But through that process, we did something unique. We used pretty much a process we call collective action. Like, who can we bring together and create kind of a group that typically wouldn't be together, whether that's community, city planners, city council, students, and find a way that they all can collectively think about this idea, gain funding, design, and create this dream that we had. And 7 years later, and $5.4 million later, we ended up creating a space called Midway Peace Park, which is very unique. Earlier this summer, Governor Walz there's a Secretary of Interior, Deb Haaland. She came. She's in the Biden administration over land conservation and things of that nature. They came and they had asked me to open up, you know, kick off the press conference. And that's when I really understood the gravity of what was done, is that we were able to amplify community need. And if we can design and spend $5.4 million on a park space, well, then what can we really address about the people who might be sleeping on that park bench? You know, how can we develop a stewardship model to keep this space clean and a place that community can come and galvanize and think of ideas of what else could we change systemically? In that whole process, and through that time, I met so many amazing people, and I became a youth advocate for legislation. And I'm like, I never in a million years thought I'd be doing any of this, but it came from me using my voice. And so I wanted to be someone that helped the next generation learn how to advocate for themselves and the issues that affected them too. And that became what Good Riddance is about. So it's been a hell of a journey.
Yeah, I think, please clap for that. I think it just is a reminder to me, just being able to talk to other founders, how personal our businesses are. We talked about that, right? Moo, you told a story when we were having our session about your mother and coming to the games and something that sparked your idea for this business. So do you mind telling a little bit about that?
I mean, I left Nigeria as soon as I graduated high school. I got recruited while I was playing soccer to come play basketball in the States. So all through my journey playing basketball here in the United States, I never went back for any holidays or never went back home. So my senior night, my college wanted to do something special by flying my mom down to America to come watch the game. And I was really excited about that whole gesture. So I was ready to go off for that game. You know, I told my teammates, I'm going for 40 today. Just get me the ball. And I was really excited to, show my mom that this journey I started a few years back, that I was really good at it, because we had battled over playing basketball because I had just gotten an admission to go to medical school back in Nigeria, and I was like, I just don't want to do it. And so that was the first time she would be watching her son play live sports. And so I think during the game, after halftime, I was looking up in the stands. Every time I would score, I would look up there to see if my mom was there, and she was nowhere to be found in the stand. I was super worried. My mom has, arthritis and stuff like that, and language could be a barrier. So I was very distracted from that point on. And later I just saw her walking back in the game, and I got back my composure. We ended up winning that game. After that game, I went to her. I was like, I know you just didn't like me playing sports, but at least you could fake it and just watch me play. And she was like, no, like I really wanted to watch you play. I really enjoyed it, but I was just hungry from the flight. I needed to get some food to eat, but man, the line over there at your concession was too long, and it was like two old ladies like serving concession. And then she turned to me and was like, maybe you're crazy about building drones. Maybe you should build one of those drones that can deliver food to me. That way I don't miss your game. And that was how the whole idea of City started. And, in my mind, I was like, I just never want my parents to miss a game. They barely come to any. When they come, I just want them to watch me play. And so I connected with my childhood best friend who had the same experience with his dad, and we were like, hey, why can't we be the ones to solve this problem? This is a problem everyone here in America experienced, from going to state fair, you're at the airport, you go to performing at theaters or your favorite Viking games play, and people experience the long wait time. And I was like, hey, we can solve it. And from my experience working for Aramark, I thought like we had a decent idea about solving it.
Thanks for sharing that, man.
I appreciate it.
I'd love to, if you caught the keynote earlier today from Felicia Hatcher, she talks about this moment of obligation. And I thought about that comment about, like, you are called to obligation to help your community and serve your community. And I thought about Amplify, and that's what Amplify is, right? We're all showing up, whether it's the team members or featured founders who are sitting in the audience trying to amplify other founders, or everyone who attends. And that's what's so great about what Amplify is. And so because of that and the call to obligation, I'd love to hear from each of you what your asks are from this community in person, the community on Hopin. What do you need in the next 6 months to help take your business even further than it is today? We'll start with you.
I mean, for us at City to take our business to the next level, we need some kind of funding to finish product development, and we also need some great mentors that understand the sales cycles of B2B sales to support us in growing that aspect of our business.
Bella?
Hello? Oh, yeah. So my ask is, if you ever find our products out in the wild on coconutwist.com, at co-ops, at Foxtrots, London Barley's, Kowalski's, purchase one or two. It really helps us stay on the shelves. It's really competitive on retail, so that it means everything. So that's my ask. Just be a customer, share the word. And my second one is we're actually currently raising our seed round. So we're raising $750K, our seed round. We've been bootstrapped to this day. So this will really help us take retail and e-commerce to the next level, get our products more accessible, drive the prices down, which is really important to me, and put Minnesota on the map. So those are my two asks.
I was going to say Mick White will deliver you one too if you can't find it at the store, so you can always hit him up.
Yes.
Yeah, my ask is really a couple things. It's look at your community and see what ways you can not wait on Superman to change something. Because it's kind of how I even started with any of this, is what can I do to be a catalyst for change? Second, yeah, like the park space and all these other things, like I literally got it out the mud. So, starting this whole process was really me just working on who I was and my purpose, and really just finding ways to push that movement. And so for me, this whole process is really starting. Like, this is my first time doing this whole thing full time, and I've had a lot of community support, but it's really oftentimes as entrepreneurs, we're building the plane as we're flying. And so to have, funding and financial support, those types of things are paramount for us to really consider, to have a moment to pause and not always scatter and see where the money's coming from and what's the next project and all these other things, to really build out and strategically plan your next year or 5 years and all these other things and create a real stewardship model out of the support that we're receiving. So funding would be awesome too. And just to stay in the know, stay connected, see what social impact initiatives that we're working on in Good Riddance and how you can be a part of it, or maybe tell another person as well. So that's my ask.
Awesome. And before we turn it over to the audience Q&A, because I'm sure there's lots of questions, I'll tell you about what's next for Amplify. So Amplify, we're going to continue our events throughout the rest of the year. We're having an event in October, and we'll have more coming in 2023, which is just oddly right around the corner. We are bringing on board a new corporate sponsor with the Nerdery, and they'll join our existing sponsors of Deluxe and Midwest Bank. Without our sponsors, we wouldn't be able to afford the tools that we need to get and pull off our events, and so we really greatly appreciate them. We have a fiscal agent now in 360 Impact to help us with additional fundraising efforts as we continue to grow. And we're going to be starting a monthly-ish, hopefully monthly newsletter. So you can always go to amplify100.com. So that's amplify100.com. You can sign up for our newsletter there. There's some really cool merch too, like this Amplify mug and some other swag out there. And then follow our LinkedIn page. We amplify people fairly regularly, sometimes daily on there, not only the successes of our lovely featured founders, but anyone in the community we think is doing good. We believe really strongly in using our platform to amplify those that are collectively doing good. So I want to,
I was just going to say, yeah, it's sharing the story is so important. Whether it's just sharing a LinkedIn post or whatnot. One of the team members that works frivolously on this is Dario Harrison. He's always looking at how do we share and how do we get these stories out to more people. So it's really helpful to us if you even just go on the LinkedIn and find some of these stories that you just heard today, share out some of the stories from our LinkedIn, and just continue to be able to share those stories so other people can know that what's going on and come to some of these events and be able to amplify these wonderful founders.
Yeah. Yeah, and probably also before we turn into Q&A, thank you, Moo, Bella, Khalique, for being here. It's an honor to continue to amplify you, and we've got a couple team members in the audience as well that we've referred to, both McWhite and Dario Harrison as well, and so we've got a team behind Amplify, and we wouldn't be in existence without them. So thank you for that. And I'd love to open it up to any questions in the audience.
Hi, thanks. Khalique talked a little bit about kind of the ask, and that's, I think, even Liz mentioned it just now, and it's one thing to ask for funding, and it's one thing to ask people to buy your products, but I'm a founder myself, and re-engineering a company in my head right now. But a lot of stuff we do is on our own. I think you might agree with that. So what's the daily ask of just asking friends and family? And I mean, I've been doing this for a while, but still, it can become a burden. How do you get beyond the need to just ask for help, or just accept it and continue to do it?
Testing. Yeah, so for me, I would say some things that have helped me is showing the process and creating a brand story as well that goes along with, not just the accomplishment that you're doing, but showcasing what steps it took to get to that point. Because I've noticed that my ability to storytell has really led to people finding my work, also using visual storytelling, finding different ways to captivate people. Also, just having the ability to have an ask, but in a way that if you're going to make a post, what is that asking your audience? What are you leading them to? And then how do you keep them captivated and coming back, but also telling a friend? So for me, it's really just finding ways to, as I'm doing my work, to share the process from time to time, because I've noticed that that's been, other people have noticed from that process, like I'll just be at the gym, just working out. They was like, hey man, I had seen that video. I didn't know you did that. But if there was a point in time where I wasn't really sharing the things that I were doing, that other people, because I had assumed nobody cares about this, or that's not that, I don't have the audience for that. But then I recognized, and I remember it was another founder that told me, it was like, it doesn't matter if you get 300 likes or 4 likes, just post it, share your work. Because it is sometimes like daunting, or we don't want it. Like, seem like people are not paying attention, or oh, they didn't get as much as this one did. But you can figure out the algorithm, you can figure out the marketing, you can figure those things out. But the main person that could get in your way of you getting that ask or getting that success or person reaching out is you half the time. I remember just last week I left a voicemail on I was just making a call, calling them back, and they was like, wow. It's like, he's like, hey, Khalique, I'm like, yeah. It's like, man, that was a very good, like, your voice is really, I'm like, word. And I had to do a voice over later that day, but those types of things, it just gave me confidence, like, oh, this voiceover is a breeze. And it just gives you, it's just like sharing, and also just, there's little affirmations that come throughout the day, daily, that just keeps you pushing to keep going. And I know that kind of answers it, but that's just my process, is like sharing that story and letting people see what's going on.
Yeah, I would say for that, so like, I love this question because it's, instead of just buying or, being an investor in our business, how can you support founders, right? For me, I feel like as founders, something I get a lot is like this feeling of guilt that I'm not doing enough for my friends, my family, everybody. And so I clam up and I don't reach out enough. And so someone who does an amazing job at just checking in is Mick White. He's sitting right over there. Honestly, I would give him like a 1-sentence response to an email, and he would respond to me like a whole paragraph, just kind of affirming that I am, I'm doing amazing, and that I am really like illuminating the way for a lot of people. And, I don't wake up and I'm like, I'm the CEO of Coconut Whisk, I'm so cool, and like, life is great. It's like, I wake up and I think about all the problems, all my to-do lists, and how I'm not good enough. I'm working on that, but it's like, I think just having people who aren't afraid to reach out and be like, hey, I saw that post, like, that was so inspiring, or, being curious, because it's there's a lot that founders juggle, and so just like a simple, like, hey, how are you really, is really moving and impactful, at least, for me, so.
I'll jump in and just add some. Out of all the things that I've learned along my journey is just helping others, right? Like, find opportunities to connect other people, help other people reach their goal. And for some reason, that just always comes back to you as the person they remember, being somebody in their corner. And that permeates through, the startup community, through any community, in a way that's just different. And so I say, to look for opportunities to help others.
Yeah, for me, I call myself the Minnesota Big Baby, because a lot of people in this room out here, they reach out to me daily to support me, from Paul Taylor to Dario to Mick to Anila and to Casey, Launch Minnesota. Those guys reach out to me frequently. Dario over here, Billy from Mida, they reach out to me frequently, and whenever I meet that strong opposition, I can always reach out to them to talk through it. And I think what keeps me going every day is just to make sure I get 1% better every day. Like, whatever I do, make sure I get 1% better, and understanding that people don't really have to help me. I just have to help myself. And if I do a really good job, I can steer other people's interests to coming together to help me.
We have another question up there.
Hey, big question for you. So, Bella, you were talking about the EOS system, and one of the ideas from that is a big, hairy, audacious goal. Another word would be like a North Star. So I'm interested what each of you guys' North Star is. Like, what's your 10-year, everything went according to plan, what would that look like?
This is such a great question. Ooh, I'm gonna have to think about this. Anyone want to go first?
For me, I have an audacious goal. I tell myself in 10 years, I'll be in every major stadium across the globe, be it the Olympics. That's my audacious goal. And so that's been a dream of mine since I've been playing all over the world in Europe, is to be in those big stadiums I played in Europe, and that's our North Star metric that helps us know that we're doing well is the amount of orders we get through our platform every day or every week, and the amount of venues we sign. That's how we track our North Star metric to keep moving forward.
Yeah, I would say mine is to really create a framework to pretty much help the next generation of youth nationally become change makers for their communities. Because for me, this was just I had met randomly just a mentor who just wanted to interview me about taking a college course, because I was one of the only students at my high school to take PSEO. And for me, he was like, hey, would you like to be interviewed about your experience? And I'm like, why not? And for me saying yes to that opportunity, that created, he then asked me, he's like, man, you're pretty good at this interviewing thing. What do you think about going around and doing like a tour throughout the Twin Cities and really telling people about your experience and really helping other people of color take advantage of these opportunities for like free college courses? And that was a defining moment in my life, because I could have said no. But I also was thinking like, well, I already know this is where I'm at. I know that there's not many opportunities that are being presented like this. So let me at least try my hand in it. And if I fail and I don't like it, oh well, at least I got a $25 Target gift card. And but when I said yes and moved in that energy, moved in that path, it literally changed my whole life, because I was able to have a vision of possibilities that I once didn't have. I ended up having a mentor that is still here to this day. Like, I met Joe, his name's Joe Nathan, education, PhD of Center for School Change, and he's been a part of my life since that moment. And I met a mentor that's just walked me and showed me the way, and especially for someone coming from my background in inner city of Chicago, lack of resources, lack of opportunity, a lack of, people to look up to, and being able to have that and to create success and to be kind of that success story is like, I know I'm not the only one, and I'm probably I was lame in my community, right? I wasn't the coolest kid. Like, I became cool. I made what I'm doing cool. But I wasn't like some superstar, someone that always believed in himself. But it was trying a new approach. And so I want to make this, create and build out a framework that nationally, all throughout, the state, students can have this experience of working on real life problems that affect their community, meet different people with different skill sets, career paths, and really just expand their vision of possibilities and be catalysts of change for themselves and for the generations to come. Because, we're the future, the youth are the future, but if we're not having people to do what I'm doing now, we'll miss so many pain points that we're going through as a community for years to come. And people won't have, the fun thing about youth is they're not scared. Like that, I was going boldly in front of city council and state legislative meetings. They're like, who is this guy? And there's like, who is this kid that they brought here, talking about, his community issues. And, but having that fire and energy is like, young people haven't been told or haven't really accepted, just that box that we sometimes as adults get like in that, we get stuck in, or this routine, or they still have time to kind of figure things out and to change their reality. and not just be stuck in that mindset of, oh, this is just what it is. So, you know, they're kind of radical. They're, you know, they want to actually use that energy to really create change. And I feel like if we invest into that a lot more, we'll have a different world. So that's my thoughts.
Yeah, these are powerful. I'm the visionary seat in our company, so I love talking like big picture. So that's why I had to like kind of think about this one. As far as Coconut Whisk goes, I would, you know, we want to see this as a global brand and make vegan and gluten-free foods super inclusive, accessible, and just bring the fun back to it. And personally, I have really gotten inspired of just like showing up more as myself. You know, you can't be what you can't see. And so something that I gained a lot of passion from as I've been building Coconut Whisk is just speaking to young entrepreneurs and showing them that they are also, you know, capable. Like they don't need to have all the resources. They just have to have this mindset of perseverance and this like deep desire to take action on this problem that they want to solve, and like that's the recipe. And so just showing up and sharing the story, and you know, using Coconut Whisk is like kind of like that success story, right? Because again, you can't be what you can't see. So that's my vision.
Oh, online question.
Yes. The personal story Khalique shared about using his voice was great, but how do you get people to invest when you don't have access to people with power who can create change? How do you open those doors when people with connections are not in the room to hear you talk about 5 acres of land?
It's a great question. And so I come from a family that believes in faith, right? And another key point is faith without works is dead. So if dreams don't work until you do. So if you have something that you're passionate about, you want to accomplish, but if you're not putting forth that effort to see it through, to create just a prototype of what you're thinking about, you know, no one's going to be able to see it or hear it or believe in it. And there was many times that when I was going on this journey, when I would tell my friends, and they didn't think I could do anything to change education or to help fight against youth and family homelessness or the workforce development and all these different things that I've grown to do over time. I've even had friends of mine who are like, man, I never would have thought you took it this far. Like, and I'm like, same, but in a way I always had that vision of what it could be, and a vision of who I could be. And it was really for me is this, you have to be able to, you know, look outside your current environment sometimes, even if it's just you looking with your eyes closed, you know, having that ability to look forward, to have some foresight. And, you know, there's was it Ezekiel? But it's like there was a certain scripture, it was like speaking to the wind, and whoever's there to listen will come to you. And it'll reach somebody. And that's the type of energy that I went with, because I didn't have a background in nothing. When I tell you I had no background, all I had was faith and a voice and to crack jokes. And but there was this people that seen, because I always did put in effort into what I was doing though, but I always knew that where I was at wasn't it for me, because I wanted to. You know, one thing I prayed for was purpose. And I think if you really seek to have purpose and find something that you want to change, or you want to just to find some way to make the world that you're born into better, that journey is something that lasts a lifetime, because that purpose is something that we're just moving the needle forward in our lifetime, you know, and then passing that baton to the next person. And I've recognized that that's what's been done to me with the mentors and people I've met. Like, they see the effort that they've been able to do, and it's like, oh, wow, there's someone who actually wants not just something for himself, but wants something for his community and the world. And I think if you have a vision and a purpose that's bigger than you, you'll find a way to do it. And the people who can see that and who are already working on that will find it in you, as long as you're, you know, taking a step towards that destiny.
Yeah, so when I started Coconut Whisk with my partner, we were broke college students. I didn't know one wealthy person. We're immigrants, low income. And I worked my way through college, and I never complained, and it was, yes, that vision, and also leaning into like that curiosity and knowing that I have nothing to lose, right? And just like applying yourself, and what I believe is like it's all about mindset. It's truly about mindset. Like if you aren't wealthy, like let's embody wealth. Wealth is all about like value, right? So like how can you be valuable? Like how can you contribute? And so working with what you had, like when we started Coconut Whisk, we created our products with craft paper bags and hand-printed stickers from home, and we brought them to the farmer's market every Sunday, and it was looking back, it's so cringy, and I can't believe we even like sold them and people bought them, to be honest. But now it's like we allowed ourselves to evolve and learn and grow and just be humble enough to take the lessons and take the feedback and sharing the story, being brave enough to share your story and ask for help. And also, one of the most important things is just that leaning into the relationship part of building something great, right? Not just talking to someone or engaging with someone because you want something or there's an agenda, but like being really curious about their story just as much as, maybe they're curious about yours. And so just like being open enough to make that ask or ask them a question. And building those relationships, because it's a long game. And so it's not gonna happen overnight. And so people will remember you, not just by what you say or what you do, it's like how you make them feel. So it's coming in with a service of heart and being curious and applying yourself and taking action.
Yeah, I usually say you start with the people first, and then you apply the tech. And when I started Sit Eat, we basically didn't know what the hell we were doing. I don't know if I'm allowed to curse. And I remember listening to something on YouTube where they say if you need to be where the people you want to ask for help are. And so I can remember Dario, my teammate over there, telling me like, you have to go to Twin City Startup Week last year. And I was like, man, I don't want to do all that. And he was like, there's really big value in it. And I went there, and in that environment, I saw that, okay, there are people here who could help me actually get a start in hand. And I think I asked Neela a question like, hey, how come you guys have all these resources and it never gets to people in the hood where I come from, or people that come from the backgrounds I come from? And Neela took me on and said, hey, there's this grant, there's this opportunity, there's that opportunity. You don't have to come from where the power is. You just need to find the right environment. And when you go there, just be audacious and ask the right question and shake the right people. I mean, I wouldn't have a great mentor in Port Taylor if I didn't just walk up to him and say, hey, my name is Mo, and I think you should know me. And that's just how our meeting started. You just have to be that audacious and walk up to people and demand what you're worth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We probably have time for one more.
We got a lot of questions. We'll make it short and sweet. What are your whys, and what are whys important to you? One more thing. Chichichi Ibo Kwenu? Ibo Kwenu?
Oh, Ibo Kwenu, yeah.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
I guess I have to start. I think my big why on why I decided to turn down a big contract in Spain, where I signed my biggest pro career contract to chase entrepreneurship, where I don't even know what the future holds for me in here, was, coming back to Minneapolis during the whole, George Floyd thing, and having all my friends here in Minnesota was like, hey, we're going for a match here, we're going for a match there. And I started thinking, how do we effectively change the community and how do we effectively change the economy. For me, it was about like, okay, the only way we change this is by building companies that can impact the economy of the communities we come from. And that is what I have set my goal to do. And it's by going to high schools to talking to the younger ones, and they look at me and say, how did you make that how did you move from being a basketball player and being now you're starting a tech company? How were you able to do that? Because all through while I was in college, I usually thought about this tech startup for, really smart people and really people that knew what they were doing. It wasn't just for me as an athlete. And I thought like successful people that come from where I come from usually were interested in sports because that's where they were more successful. But I was very quick to realize like, no, like I needed to be that one person that created change for my community so kids can look at me and say, hey, I can play sports and I can also start a tech business. And once I started doing that, that's what wakes me up every day. Not just kids in America, but kids back home that I also mentor, them waking up every day and texting me like, hey, I did this, and it's my why. It's why I wake up every day to chase this grind.
That's beautiful. So my why, it's twofold. One of my biggest whys is my family. My parents, I saw them just work so hard growing up, multiple jobs, hard labor. And I just want to retire my parents and kind of live out the American dream that they wanted. Like my mom is so entrepreneurial and she's such a boss, but like she never had that opportunity. I might start crying. But she never had that opportunity to chase her dreams, build a business, and see it become successful. And so it's such a privilege for me to be in this space and for me to have this like foundation to build and to create what I create. And then my second why is just being that role model that I needed when I was younger, and just hopefully inspiring someone who maybe has a big idea to go after it and to just do something outside of themselves and stay with their purpose. So those are my whys.
Yeah, I kind of spoke on some of my whys throughout this process, but kind of reiterate what was being mentioned here by everybody is, for me, it was more not just being the change I want to see, but in what ways can I really just create some type of platform or create some type of imagery that allows for people to not just, so we can control our own narratives. And I think for me, that was a big part that I noticed growing up in the Black community, is that there were a lot of stories being told about us, but not being told from our perspective, our vantage point, and from our truths. And that paints a picture to the viewers and people who are watching, and that creates biases, that creates all these different things that not just affected me, but affected generations to come in like economy, job markets, education, all these different spaces. And as I was in these different institutions, I recognized that those places were often not made with me or people that look like me in mind, or we weren't a part of the deciding factors of what would be implemented there. We weren't designing anything. We weren't a part of leadership. And for me, I know if there's something that I can control or I'm creating, that let me see that, wow, if I can create a business and create lesson plans and create all these different things, how much more was the kid that was my peer in high school who could teach calculus if he wanted to. And I remember his name was Kevin. He was so bright. It's just he didn't have enough opportunities or clubs or mentorship or just an environment that was conducive of the things that, were relevant, not just to him, but the people in that community. They didn't have that representation. And so my why became, how can I, with the gift I was given, use that to be, somebody that they can look up to one day. And also find other people, because there's so many amazing people I've met along the way. How can I build that network and bring them to the table so they can see different skill sets and see different voices and hear different voices and look at, people who have so many diverse skills and see that that's a possibility for them too. And that became my why. And I didn't think I would take it this far, because it started at 16 and I'm 27 now, so I'm kind of 10 years in the game, but still a baby at the same time. And it's so interesting for me to see how far I can take it now, and to know I can scale it 10 times as much as I'm doing, based off the community I found that helped me along the way and that supported me. So, I started this just creating life skill lesson plans because the mentors I had, they were giving me game. I'm like, what if I knew this earlier in life? Like, what if someone gave me this as a child, as growing up? What if I had people that were around this and create this community for me back then? How much further I could be. So that became my whys. Let me see how I can give this game to the next generation earlier.
All right. Well, thank you. We are running out of time here, but please see us after. Reach out to us on LinkedIn. We would love for you to come to one of the Amplify events. There's so many founders that need your help to be able to get to the next level. And if you're a founder out there and you need that as well, reach out to us as well. But thank you for coming, and really enjoyed this. Yep.
Big round of applause.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.